Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. So
Good.
we got a lot of comments regarding our tenants and the fact that they're blackmailing basically and asking for exorbitant amount of money to vacate
Right.
the keys for cash. And I saw this article and I thought we should let people know about it
Pull it up. Yes, we should.
because I sent it to you and you got to read it.
Yes.
So there is an online database, Open Room, and it's hosted almost 2 million searches in this year. And
Yep.
basically, it was a landlord who is also builds, I guess
Software, I think it was.
yeah,
Yep.
software builder
Yep.
who made a registry of delinquent Ontario tenants and some unscrupulous landlords. It's gaining traction among landlords and legal expert.
Yep. So, you know what? I'm going to go back maybe, yeah, maybe 15 years ago when April Stewart, I'm sure you know her name, who was called landlord. What was she called? Landlord something. It was a sharp name, and she would help. I've used her. She's retired now. She closed the business down, but she did something similar to this. Okay. Would post it on her website for the people that she represented and said, hey, if so if they rented 94 Bentley and they, were, evicted for non-payment, she would post their names and stuff like that. The landlord tenant board made her take it down and threatened her to take her paralegal license away.
Wow.
I give this person extremely amount of credit and kudos for helping landlords, because me and you both know we've had many discussions about this in the past where, we continually see that, the landlord's absorbing all the costs, right? They're absorbing the damage, they're absorbing non-rent, they're absorbing mortgage costs, taxes, utilities, you name it, they're paying for it all. And that's allowed and acceptable in this province of Ontario. So
Well, listen, so she founded the platform a little over a
the
year
article
ago.
down, pull the article down a bit, just so the headlines are there. Just people
Well,
may.
I want to say this though. She started the platform Open Room a little over a year ago after she had trouble ousting a tenant from the home she owned in Vaughan,
Right.
even after the tenant stopped paying. And she said, I thought I was the only one until I met other landlords. And I said, why isn't anyone doing more about this? That's when I said, you know what? I build software for a living. Why don't I go build something myself?
Yeah, correct. No, and that's true, and it's awesome. And I've saw this before on some TikToks and stuff like that, that there is platforms like this. So if anyone's out there that is a landlord that is going through, or a tribunal case currently right now and gets that court order, obviously those documents can be uploaded. This search will allow you to get on their platform and do this stuff. So it really helps others, it will prevent this fraudulent stuff and prevent, financial hardship to other people. Because let's face it, we've come across articles in the past, Diane, that people had to either sell the home, gone bankrupt, repossessed because they were so under, they couldn't afford the mortgage payment on it because the
Well,
tenant.
the good thing with this one though is you can upload the court documents for proof of what you're saying. You're also, she also checks out people that are posting on there because
Yes.
that's the other thing. Somebody could, one of the critics of this
Yep.
says that all you're doing is creating more homeless people because you're allowing people to go on a site and put in information that could not maybe not be correct.
That's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm so tired of hearing the poor me song for this. This is a real big problem in this province, and it's only gotten worse. And we all know where it's gotten worse. We've talked about it to death, where you put documents for non-payment. You may get hurt in 10 months. Does the Ontario government landlord tenant board compensate that landlord that's out 30, 40, 50 grand?
No.
No. Do they if they wreck your condo unit or your basement apartment, do they go, here, Dan, here's 25,000 to to go fix it up? No, they
Well,
don't.
where are you even getting the money? Because the people don't have it. So
Don't
there's
have.
this guy, there's one guy that uses it now.
Yeah,
Um, and there's even some paralegals and other people going on and using this.
yeah,
And this one guy here who hasn't been paid, she owes him 7,800. He's been trying to get her to leave since last summer.
yeah.
And he got an eviction order, I think, finally. But he says he ended up going on that site and checking her out. And this is the
Yep.
third time she's done this.
For time. So why is that? Why is that allowed? So it's like, let's put this in perspective. If me and you went to Walmart today and stole, I don't know, baby formula, we'd get charged. And we did it again, we'd get charged. And probably after that, I don't think it's jail, but we get charged. There's repercussions for this behavior. In this province, there's no repercussions for the behavior. And
No.
I love, like, kudos to this person, because it's a great platform for landlords to start, getting traction on this stuff, right, Dan? Because we've seen it. You have a basement apartment now that you've had vacant forever. You're not going through this because you're seeing the landscape of this market, what's going on. And you could probably get $2,200 for it. You say, forget that, it's not worth the headache. It's not.
Well, I'm too scared with what I'm going to live with. Are they going to be smoking pot in my house? Are they going to be smoking cigarettes? Are they going to be partying? Are they, because I've had a lot of those issues as well with different properties
Yeah,
in the past where, oh, I don't smoke, I don't this, I don't that.
yeah.
And yeah, they're lying. And I'm living in the house.
Right.
I have my family, my sister's coming over, and my grandchildren, and my whole house smells like pot. Great.
Right. I want to touch base on a comment that a viewer left. So, as Dan mentioned, we did a video last week and we posted it, and it was Cash for Keys. It was called The Title. And this is from a person that just, left a comment here 20 minutes ago. And I pulled it up and I thought I'd want to share it. And he goes, I know several people, myself included, who have unoccupied space, such as basement apartments, who simply refuse to rent it out, given the current laws. I could rent out my basement as it is a legal self-contained unit, but I don't want to be stuck with some loser who thinks they're entitled to hold me hostage if I ever need that unit vacant. Been there, done that, and it's just not worth it. The renters cry that it's hard to find an apartment and rent is too high. Yeah, it's true. It's hard to find an apartment because there's a shortage of apartments. The vacancy rate is, I think it's under 3%, two something. No one, and I read in that article that in the GTA, they estimate that 75 to 100 landlords stop renting out their units.
You know what? I read that too.
Like, that's a lot of units. It's not available for housing anymore. So when the government cries the poor housing story, they need to go back to the landlord tenant board and revamp these. They need to make it fair for both parties, right?
Yeah.
Yes, me and you both know that there's some awful landlords out there and they should be held accountable. I'm all for that.
I'm in total agreement. I mean, I don't think you would hear as much crying and whining from our side, being the landlord side, if it was actually fair. And before COVID, it was pretty fair. You at least you got a hearing with a month or two. You could get them out. And yeah, you went through some nonsense, but it was at least in a timely manner. Now, since COVID, they are still not back to in-person meetings and the volumes they were doing. They are not. They're backed up from here to freaking kingdom come, and they might hire more people, but they haven't changed their process. So it's still going slow as shit.
The laws are outdated for what is going on in today's real world in this province, right? They need to change. If we're losing housing at an alarming rate for people, and there's more than ever people renting today, something needs to be done. Something needs to be changed.
Okay, Mark, let's also clarify one thing. I've got a couple comments, and I don't think people realize that it's provincial government that's causing our problems. Meaning every province is different, and there's a lot of provinces. I have a client out in New Brunswick who they said they don't have these problems.
Just Ontario. I agree. I agree.
Ontario is one of the worst, yeah.
And this has been making the news for a long, long time. I want to read another comment because this is all new comments in the last half an hour. And I think these are important to share to our audience because, this audience is, responding to Cash for Keys, but this kind of relates. And I haven't even read it, so I'm just going to read it. This is by Jacqueline. I'm quite disgusted that tenants buck the system like this. Having said this, I do know as a renter living in my apartment for 18 years, with the past 5 years with above guideline rent increases, all vacant units get their rent jacked up by $600. That's in Toronto. Large property management companies are doing this quite legally, so I don't blame them. I think the whole system needs to be overhauled. They're constructing a third high rise on this property with consistent disruptions. Most tenants here are patient and fair. Good comment. But
There's some good, like, the thing is, I think it's like anything where one bad apple spoils the bunch. There's a lot of good tenants, Mark. You've had them, I've had them, we've all had them. I had a comment on my videos where the guy said, I have a tenanted property and I'm way below market rent, but my
Right.
tenants are great and they've been there for years and I'm not upping it.
No, and he can't either because if it's not November 2018, he can't up it anyway. There's
Oh no, he's in his properties are in a position he could up it.
okay.
But I could have upped mine too, and the ones I had that I got rid of.
Yep.
But you
Yep.
don't, when somebody's really good and taking care of everything, you don't want to rock the boat because you don't know what you're going to get next time.
You don't. That's the thing, right? You don't. So that's it, right?
And
But
like I said, there are good tenants out there. It's just the bad apples are causing some major havoc. And the problem is they're causing havoc to the point where people don't want to do this anymore.
it's evident that they don't want to do this anymore. We just read a couple comments. You've talked about this. The article talks about this, where that much people say we're out of the business. That's why rents are high. It's not because landlords are greedy that we hear some of those comments. It's a supply issue. It's on an open market. A lot of demand for renters right now. A lot of people have been pushed out of the real estate game, forced to rent a little bit longer. So yes, and it's only gonna get worse because this generation coming up that's in their 20s now and just
They're gonna be
getting
renting a lot longer.
a lot longer, probably lifelong renters, possibly the way this housing crisis is. So, and we know where the issues are, and why isn't anybody doing something about this? Why isn't the government or some politician addressing this concern? You never hear a politician stand up and say, hey, we need to revamp the Landlord Tenant Board Act because it's not fair or it's outdated.
Mark, you know what? I saw an article 2 days ago that I was ready to like freak out because they went back to it was all bashing the landlords and that we're causing, like, the landlords are causing all the problems.
I know. Yeah.
So they're all trying to get unrealistic rents. They're all kicking people out to up the rent. They're inflating, overinflating everything. And I'm thinking, I personally, I know a whole bunch of people that are actually taking less than market rent.
Some are doing that though. I will say that some are, maliciously kicking other tenants saying we're moving in and we're going to do that. And there should be repercussions for that landlord. I'm in agreement with that. But, it works both sides, but we're seeing, some of that, but we're seeing more people come out and saying, I'm not paying rent because I know that I can sit here for a year before anything happens. We've seen these articles. We've talked about them many times. We've had discussions on them, conversations.
Well, and the other thing too is, and I'm going to bash this because this totally annoys me. there's all these Facebook groups and all these groups for tenants, and they teach each other how to get around everything.
100%, 100%.
I
They're
know
all-
I know that one, remember where we were having the problems? Well, I know that I'm entitled to this and I'm entitled to that. And I
Oh,
know I should be compensated because the rent has gone up in 5 years. Well, my client didn't raise your rent in 5 bloody years when he coulda, and
Yep.
he never ever raised anything.
Yep.
And now we're supposed to give you compensation because the market's gone up. You're lucky that you weren't getting raised, right?
Yeah.
So it's like these people could go on all these sites and learn all this stuff to
Yeah.
screw over landlords, and the
100%.
landlords have nowhere to go.
Well, because there's no avenue for them to proceed or put, get heard. It's a year late. It's 10 months to a year later. So, and what Diane's referring to is it happened to her whenever she sold a property back a couple months ago, and there was a tenant occupying it for 5 years plus, and they gave the proper documentation to say, hey, we've sold the property. There's a sign put on, agreement to purchase, sale done up, as all a legit process. The tenant didn't believe it at all and says, no, we're not doing it. So come moving day, I think, if I'm not wrong, you guys had to extend it a couple times because he said she still didn't believe it. And then eventually,
He wanted 40 grand, or
oh
he's
yeah,
not leaving.
40 grand. Long story short, the seller paid 15 grand so he can close the property. $15,000 plus.
Well, Mark, he's into it for like 30 because he lost all that rent too.
Right, because he stopped paying rent.
Well, as soon as you give a notice of an LTB hearing, nobody pays rent.
Yeah, they just stopped completely.
Yeah.
So pretty expensive. So these are the things that are going to happen. And I really encourage, we do get some people going on, that still want to invest and stuff like that. But you know what? Phone doesn't ring too much for investors like it did years ago. I want to buy an investment property. Yeah, great. What should I buy? Well, probably townhouse would be great. Good area. You don't get those phone calls anymore.
Oh, I used to have all kinds of investor clients.
You do. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
You don't. So,
well, nobody wants to get into it. Like everybody hears the nightmares and nobody wants to get into it.
It's too risky. The financial risk to this is too risky for someone that's new. It's okay if someone has, loads of money that says, I want to put some cash to work and can sustain if someone doesn't pay them, but that's not a lot of people.
Mark, you know what? These little 2-unit properties, really, people with a lot of money don't have them. Not a lot.
They're not buying these. These are small investors, right? They get 3 or 4 of them. They're not, and we get some comments about, oh, big corporations aren't doing this. They're just not. If they're doing, they're buying buildings, right?
Well, and I know, look at the owner of Century 21. I mean, he used to be into residential. Now he's all commercial. Like once they start making a bunch of money, they're not messing around with tenants.
No,
Hold on, I gotta get Gracie something.
Good. So, I encourage people to leave comments. I think it's important to get this kind of information out, and that's why we do these podcasts on these topics, because they're front and center today, and they're impacting people's livelihood, and it's a shame to see it. So, go to open room, get educated if you're going to get into being a landlord, because I think you really need to understand what's going on out there today, and give us a call, give us a comment, we'll get you back. And remember, like this comment, please give it a like, share, follow for more information. It kind of motivates us to keep doing these discussions.
Well, another thing, Mark, so right in the top line there's been 2 million searches in the past year on her thing already.
It's massive.
2 million.
Grow massively. This is going to grow really massively. This lady could make a big business out of it, as far as I'm concerned. I'd be willing to pay for a service like that if I was being a landlord today.
I think it's free.
I know. What a nice lady, giving back to a great cause because she got stung, right?
Well, this is it. And I think, the more and more people that do get stung, I think you're going to see more and more vigilante stuff like this. Like you have to verify what you're saying. So you can't just go on there and just,
post stuff.
Yeah.
On open form like that. So
no, she even says down here somewhere in this article, see, anyone can access open room and search a potential tenant or landlord name. About and the alleged infraction and how the tribunal ruled as well.
Yeah.
Hold on. So before listing an order against a particular tenant or landlord, Beaulieu says she checks to make sure it's accurate.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
So, I mean, she's not just, this isn't just like some cowboy thing that people are just going and doing whatever they want.
She's working on this. Like she's
Yeah.
she's still working on this, which is great to see.
It's great. Well, I think it's great because, somebody had to do something. And as a landlord, what are our options?
None, because our government shuts us down. That's why. That's why. No one wants to tackle the housing issue. Oh no, we can't touch that. It's a pretty hot topic. Yeah, you can attack it. You make it fair.
Oh, another thing, one of the comments I got, he was saying something about us being against new development or new, and I said, no, we're not against new development and things changing and growing. But what they don't understand, and the government doesn't understand, is they've created a vicious circle where we have no housing and nobody wants to do it anymore. So now the housing's going down, 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 and the rents are going up, up, up. And they refuse to see that. Like the government, if you talk to them, this is not an issue. But is that because it's their own inadequacy? Do they want to admit their own inadequacy?
Well,
No.
they should. They should say this is broken. We need, or you know what? Maybe they shouldn't be involved in it to begin with.
That's not a bad idea.
They shouldn't be involved in this. This costs millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars for and nothing gets done. The landlord gets a piece of paper, gets eviction. Okay, Dan, you need to leave now. Great. Well, we told you to have to leave, but you don't have to leave until the landlord pays the sheriff to make sure there's a final eviction, right? Where they have to enforce it. So
then you got to wait for that too.
there's a month, 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. It's been a while since I've done that, but I've done them before. Usually it's a 3-week window. So now let's just call it a couple months, I'm sure. So, there's a system that has so many cracks in it. And this is the problem why people are not getting into the business. And we can sit here and we can say, well, it's high rates. Yeah, it's high rates, but you know what? I bought in high rates.
Mm-hmm.
Probably you did. Higher rates, and they're probably like they are now. Oh well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But back then it was so easy. We kept for 10 years, we made some money, and great. There was less issues, and they got dealt with a timely manner, like we talked about. But now that could financially ruin somebody.
Well, and like I said, it's not like there wasn't issues, because I had issues, you had issues,
100%,
but it was dealt with within 1 or 2 months. I could handle paying for 1 or 2 months. I can't handle
a
for
year.
10 months or a year.
Can't. It's a problem. Well, I think we covered it. What do you think? I think we covered.
I think it's good.
I think it's good.
Open room.
Yeah. So remember that. Want information, and this is for anybody that owns properties, go to open room and verify that person, because we did get some comments on it and I just forgot the platforms. So I'm glad you found that article, because this ties in what we did last week.
Yeah, perfect.
Have a good night. See you.
You too. See ya.